For more stories like this, hit the like button and subscribe. They say the smallest decisions can lead to the biggest consequences. But what if one seemingly harmless choice could slowly unravel your entire life? This is the story of a great monk, a man who once gave up everything in search of truth and enlightenment, only to be brought down by a single simple indulgence. On his deathbed, he left behind a cryptic warning to his successor: never allow a cat into your life. What did he mean? Why a cat? As the young disciple sets out to uncover the meaning behind his master's final words, he discovers a hidden truth about the mind, and a powerful lesson we all need to hear before it's too late. Once upon a time, a great monk lay on his deathbed, his breath slowing with each passing moment. As his disciples and villagers gathered to hear his final words, he turned to his chosen successor, a young monk, and whispered, "Remember one thing: never allow a cat into your life." With that cryptic statement, the revered master took his last breath. The crowd was stunned. Of all the wisdom he could have imparted, why would his final words be about a cat? The young monk, though honored to be named the successor, was deeply confused. The master had always spoken in metaphors, but this time the meaning was elusive. Days passed, and the monk remained restless, haunted by those final words. He pondered endlessly. Why a cat? What did he mean? Noticing his distress, an old monk who had lived alongside the master for many years approached him. Though he was once a candidate for succession, age and decline in health had left him in the shadows. With a warm smile, he asked, "Why are you so troubled, my friend?" The young monk confided in him, revealing the master's final words. The old monk nodded thoughtfully and said, "Ah, then it's time you heard the whole story." He began to recount a tale from decades ago when the master was a young man. In his pursuit of truth, he renounced his home, his wife, and his children, choosing a life of solitude and spiritual discipline. He settled in a forest near a small village where he lived in simplicity. Every day he would beg for food, and over time the villagers, moved by his presence, built a humble bamboo hut for him. He had nothing but 2 pieces of clothing and a mat to sleep on. However, a problem soon arose. Rats began invading his hut and chewing his clothes. He mentioned this issue to the villagers, and one of them suggested keeping a cat to chase the rats away. The monk, seeing no harm in it, agreed. True to the advice, the cat rid the hut of rats. But now the cat needed milk. The monk had to go to the village multiple times a day just to get milk for the cat. Troubled, he mentioned this to the villagers again. "Why don't you keep a cow?" one of them proposed. "You'll have a steady supply of milk for the cat and yourself." Again, the monk saw the practicality and accepted a cow, but cows require grass and attention. The monk, who once meditated all day, now found himself burdened with daily trips for grass. The villagers, seeing his dilemma, offered a solution. "There's a widow in our village," they said. "She has no family. Let her assist you. She can take care of the cat, the cow, your meals, and the cottage." With no ill intent, the monk agreed. The widow moved in and dedicated herself to her duties. She cared for the animals, cooked meals, maintained the hut, and even grew vegetables beside the cottage. Gradually, the monk started helping her in the field. Days turned into weeks, and the lines between monk and man began to blur. Their bond deepened. She was beautiful and he was young. They were under one roof. In time, intimacy followed, and the woman became pregnant. Months later, she gave birth to a child. Now the man who once renounced the world to seek enlightenment was working tirelessly in the fields to feed his family. One evening, sitting alone after a day's labor, he reflected. What happened to me? He wondered. I left everything in search of the eternal, and now I am right back where I began. The realization hit him hard. He hadn't fallen all at once. It was a slow descent, and it all began with a cat. The old monk paused, letting the weight of the story settle in. You see, he said softly, when the master told you not to allow a cat into your life, he wasn't speaking literally. The cat was a metaphor, a symbol of the mind's indulgence. A small desire, a seemingly harmless distraction. He continued, that is how the mind works. It whispers, just once, just a little, and we allow it. A little indulgence, a moment of comfort, a tiny deviation from our path. But over time, that one step becomes a journey in the wrong direction. We don't even realize when we've lost control. It happens quietly, gradually, and suddenly we're far from where we meant to be. He gave examples that are all too familiar today. A young man decides to watch pornography just once, just to satisfy curiosity. But soon it becomes a habit, then an addiction, stealing energy and joy from life. Someone eats junk food just for today and ends up battling health issues for years. We allow the mind a little freedom, thinking we're in control. But it's not long before the mind takes the reins and drives us into habits we never intended. The mind, the old monk said, is both your best friend and your worst enemy. A disciplined mind can take you to the highest peaks of spiritual and worldly success, but an uncontrolled mind can ruin your life. It's like a fast car with no steering wheel, or a train with no track. It has power, but no direction, and that is dangerous. He looked into the young monk's eyes. The master gave you a treasure with those final words. He had lived it. Even a great monk like him fell when he gave in to a single indulgence. He wanted to protect you from that fate. So remember, he concluded, never keep the cat of indulgence in your life. Because once you let it in, it will quietly take over your life, and you won't even notice until it's too late.